Hello, good work, everyone. Here we go. The Sichos Haran of this week, as well as Sichos Haran of next week, some are Sichos that I personally don't really understand. I mean, they're either just statements of things that happen, but this is a sefer that we go through, so we'll get to it. But first, B'ezrat Hashem, we're starting with the Baal Shem HaKadosh, the story of the Baal Shem HaKadosh, and then we will continue B'ezrat Hashem, some more Spurey Tzadikim. The Baal Shem Tov said that to the Bet Din Shel Mala, the heavenly tribunal, came a neshama, that the only of a very, very simple Jew, the only thing that this person could do is daven and say some tillim, and that's it. But together with his simplicity, he was an unbelievable Ariz Yisrael. That was his focus. Machshava, Dibra, Maisa, how, just thinking good about every single Jew. We've been talking about this union of focusing one's machshava, one's intention. What should I work on? How should I work on it? This union of Ahavas Yisrael, we spoke about the Badich Verov in that regard, obviously. He would say a lot of good things about Jewish people, and in Machshava, he only thought about good, what's good about every single Jew, and he would say good things about every single Jew. And Maisi, he tried to do favors, whatever it is, good do's for somebody else. And he would feel with his heart the tsar of every other Jew, the simcha of every other Jew. And since he was a simple Jew, nevertheless, even though he was a very simple Jew, based in Shalmala Paskin, that because he had such a great Ahavas Yisrael to every Jew, he will be in Gan Eden together with the tzaddikim and geonim that Chazal testified, upon whom Chazal testified, were all great of Israel. Baal Shem Tov said that aside that one single Jew sighs over the tsar of another, breaks all the iron curtains of all the avenging angels, and the simcha that the Jew gets from the simcha of someone else, I don't know, somehow it seems like the light is, okay. And the bracha that a Jew gives to another Jew is accepted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol daven in Kodesh HaKodeshim. Well, nope, not that. All right. We'll tell another Maisa about Revolf Kitzis. Revolf Kitzis is one of the great Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, and he actually lived in Mezhibos. And he was very close to the Baal Shem HaKadosh, and he had a daughter that was of marriageable age, but he was so poor, he didn't have a single penny. So, to give her some money to help her out, to make a chasana. So it kept on being pushed off and pushed off. So the Baal Shem Tov, when the Baal Shem Tov asked him, why don't you make a shidduch? So he answered him that he has nothing. I mean, he hardly has bread to eat. How much more so he doesn't have any money to conduct a marriage. That's the reason why the shidduch is being held off. So the Baal Shem Tov scolded him and told him, make a shidduch right away. So he sees the Wolf is still like hemming and hawing about it. He says, listen, you should know this is the time of her zivug. Send a messenger to the city of Yassi, that's in Romania. We know, going to Uman, from Uman, we had, some of us had the pleasure of going through Yassi, and let him meet with some shadchanim over there, and tell them that you are willing to give a sum total of 2,000 rubles. That's a huge amount of money. And if they will give you a chosen, a talmid chacham, and what about the expenses? Because Baal Shem Tov said, on me. Okay. So Wolf Kitzer sent a special messenger to Yassi. And after a short period, the messenger came back with the good news. I came to Yassi, and I offered this wonderful Nadunya, and I got all kinds of suggestions, and I checked each one until there was, I screened it until it came to one. The Bochas Godel Batera. He's a son of a very honorable and wealthy person, and I made it time. And in that time, I wrote that you are obliging yourself to give a dowry of 2,000 rubles. Wasn't very happy about this offer. He liked it, but he was staggered because where is he going to bring 2,000 rubles for the dowry? So he went to Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov said, don't you worry. The Shias Hashem will come. You'll be able to pay everything that you oblige yourself to. Well, a few weeks later, comes a letter from his intended mechuten, and he says he's very perplexed. How come the mechuten didn't send a gift to the chosen the way that is that's the minute? So the Wolf showed about Shem Tov and says, what are we going to do about this? Shem Tov said, don't worry. Everything will fall into place. Everything will be okay. And still, things came on again and again. The Mechuten shows another letter. The Wolf shows it to Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov says, no reason for worry. The third letter, Mechuten says he wasn't even that diplomatic. He demanded an answer to his letters. And he says if he doesn't get a reply, he's going to tear up the Tnaim. He's going to mevatel the shidduch. He's going to cancel the shidduch. So Revolvim went to Baal Shem Tov again. Shem says, okay, write to the Mechutin. He should come to town on the date of the wedding, and then you'll give him the dowry plus the gifts, the chosin. So Baal Shem Tov said, the Wolf did it, sent a letter, and the Mechutin, who knew, and the Wolf Kitzis, was a big tzaddik, was soymech on him, relied on him that he will be mekayim his words. As the time of Chasana came closer, the Baal Shem Tov told the Wolf Kitzis, write a letter to your Mechutin to come to town 3 days before the chasana, because he wants to be happy with him for a few days, just before the chasana. Again, Hashem says, well, Kitzis does. A few days before the chasana, he gets a letter from the choten that he and his entire family are already on the road coming to town. No, Rav sees that the Yom Chasana is coming. No Yeshua seems to be in the horizon. Comes to his Rebbe, and he wanted to show him, the letter that tells him that his Machotan is coming to town, and he hasn't got a penny in his pocket. And as he's going to the house of Baal Shem Tov, a stranger comes to him and asks him, "Do you know where the Baal Shem HaKodesh is? You know where he lives?" He says, "So Rav Kitzur says, you can come with me. I'm going there myself." And they went to Baal Shem Tov. After the Baal Shem Tov gave a Shalom Aleichem to the guest, he said, "Sit and I will tell you a Maisa. There was once a big merchant that made his parnasa from delivering trees from here to Prussia. And one of the times when he finished his business in Prussia, he hired a wagon driver that he will, that will bring him back, to Ukraine. And in his satchel, he had 40,000 rubles that he earned from this deal. And in the middle of the road, as this Seicher was he dozed off. The driver swayed the horses, the wagon, from the main road into the forest. He woke up the Seicher and took out an axe and ordered him to give him all his money. Otherwise, he's going to kill him on the spot. Well, the begging of the Seicher obviously didn't make, a wee of a difference. So also when he asked the wagon driver to leave him at least half the money, the wagon driver, Shumpanif, did not agree. No, has no choice. And he gave him the 40,000 rubles. At least he says, just leave me alive. The wagon driver also said, "How can I leave you alive? You're going to snitch on me. I have to kill you." So he said, "You know something? At least let me do a vidui, to confess before I die." Well, the guy says, "This okay." And he tied him to a tree, and he gave him time to say vidui. And the Socher understood these are his last moments on earth. So he said the vidui, Ishtapchus HaNefesh, and he made the name, the Rebbeinu Shalom. If I'm going to be saved from the hands of this murderer, I'm going to give Ma'aser Tzedakah from all this money that I've earned. Well, the crying voice of the Socher came, was overheard by the guardian of the forest, and so he quickly hurried to see who is crying, and he saw the Socher. He understood immediately what it is the wagon driver was doing, and he aimed his gun at him and ordered him to untie the Socher. And he took the ropes and tied the wagon driver instead, and took him to the police station in town, not before he made sure that that the Seicher had his entire money back. So the Seicher gave great thanks to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and as is usually many times the case, when a person is in trouble, he'll promise heaven and earth. The minute he gets out of trouble, he forgets the distress, that he's under. And he forgot this promise that he made to give Meiser. Even after his only daughter, he had an only daughter, and she passed away. He still didn't understand, the hint that they're sending from Shemayim. And after a while, his son also got sick. And all the doctors that checked him and said, he's not doing that well, and his days are numbered. So then he heard that there's a tzaddik called Baal Shem Tov who can do tremendous Sichos. So he took himself, went to the Baal Shem Tov to Mezhebosh. Baal Shem Tov finished his story. And this guest, who, as you can guess, was that Seicher, was astounded by Baal Shem Tov sees everything. He says, I am totally willing to be Mekayim my Neder immediately. I am going to give this Ma'aser to whoever the Baal Shem Tov will say that I will do it. So he said, tomorrow, you go to Revolve Kitzes, and you give him 4,000 rubles. The Baal Shem Tov told him. Next day, he gave Revolve Kitzes the entire sum. The chasana was held, the way properly, and not before Revolve Kitzes obviously paid the entire dowry that he obliged himself, and he gave all the gifts to the chassan the way that it was. And the Seicher also participated in the wedding, Baruch Hashem, and before he left home, he got a letter that told him that his son, Baruch Hashem, was doing better, and he is, Baruch Hashem, healthy. This is the two stories from the Baal Shem Tov. And now, with your gracious permission, we will learn, begin to learn a sefer called Ma'aser Nisim. These are tremendous nisim that were done to the Jewish people, throughout the ages by various tzaddikim. This particular Ma'aser is an awesome Ma'aser from Rabbeinu Ari HaKadosh. There was a Ma'aser in Tzfas Kodesh, the time of Rabbeinu Ariz, that one king in one of the countries, ordered the Jews that they were staying in their countries to give him a tremendous amount of money that was absolutely impossible, was totally beyond them. And he told them, listen, unless you pay me this amount of money, you're all out of here. I'm exiling every single, not only this, but the important people amongst you are going to pay the price. And he will write it as a law in his land, and said that, so this is the due date. By that time, the Jews have to pay up. And what can they do? I mean, it was not possible. It was like, so B'atzos Hashem, these Jews realized that they have no choice. So they sent messengers to Rabbeinu, the Ari HaKadosh, to Tzfas, to ask for them, to daven Kodesh Baruch Hu, because they, it's Arizal. So two people came, they took some money, for expenses, and they sailed, and they came to Tzfas. Erev Shabbos Kodesh, they didn't even eat for Shabbos, but immediately, before eating, they asked, where is the house of Arizal? Arizal. And so they went, and they were shown where he lives. And when he came before him, they saw him, he was was Erev Shabbos. He was already dressed, with white garments, with all this tamidim around him, like the sun in the sky, looking like an angel. And they had great fear of even approaching him. So Rabbeinu Arizal asked him, "What are you looking for?" It's Estzol Yaakov. So they told him specifically exactly what the problem was, what the decree was. So we came to Rabbeinu, you should down for us. So, so that we will live, so we'll be able to. So Arizal told him, the inyanim of Rachamim and Chanunim, and this is not a time, Erev Shabbos is not a time for sorrow. You stay with me here, Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos at Shem, you'll see Yeshua Hashem. And don't trouble yourself. You will see Bezat Hashem, Yeshua Hashem. It's Shabbos, after Avdollah, he tells his students, and these two people, come with me, and take with you long ropes. There's such a typical Arizal story. They came to a place, and he told them to stop. And they saw they were standing in front of a very deep hole in the ground, a pit in the ground. So he said, take the ropes that you just brought, get down to the pit. Well, immediately, obviously, tie the ropes and go down. This is just let the rope drop down to the pit. When it got there, when the rope was heading all the way down, the ropes were heading all the way down in the pit. The Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal told them, now pull with all your strength. And they pulled, and it was almost impossible to pull up. It was so heavy. And they were like, freaked out. What's this? And they kept on pulling. And suddenly they see that what they actually were pulled up was a beautiful bed. And there's a person, leaning on it, looking like, a very, very important person. The people were shocked. So Rizal comes to him, wakes him up, and shouts at him, you are the one who made this decree on my Jewish brothers to give you something that they cannot possibly give you? And he said, yes. So Arizal gave him a pail that has no bottom. And he said, I want you to bring out water, to dole out water with this pail from this well until the morning. So this person took a look, this king took a look at the pail. He said it has no bottom. He said, if I will dole out for 1,000 years, I won't be able to, to bring the water out of this well. So Israel told him, this upsets you. So why don't you have any rachmanis on these Jews that demanding from them something that they have absolutely no way of giving you? He says, so now, either you cancel the decree, and if not, I'm going to basically tease your flesh off your body. So this king told him, I'm going to cancel the decree. Just don't kill me. So David says, take the ring from your fingers and seal a letter that states exactly that. I got all the money from the Jews all the way to the last penny. And he sealed with his ring, And he gave it to these two people. And then Ariz told him, you want to go home? Within a minute, through this hole in the ground like you came here? Or do you want to get back home in a normal way in the ship? So the king says, I would like to go back home, instantly, the way that I came here. So they brought him down to the hole. They went home. In the morning, the king wakes up. It's just a dream. He's staying in his house. Everything's okay. There's an orchestra that wakes him up, bring him the breakfast, whatever it is. And he said, it's just dreams, don't mean anything. When the time for the payment of whatever it is that he decreed on the Jews, he sent for the Jews to bring the money immediately. So the Jews send these two people with the document in their hands. And they stood before the king and the ministers. And the minute he saw them, he recognized them. And he almost fainted. Were the doctors to woke him up, strengthen him. Then the two Jews came, showed him his signature on the document that said they paid up. So the king says, this is true. They are correct. I'm the one who wrote this ksav, and he canceled the decree, and he sent a letter along into all his state. Anybody who is going to even touch the Jews and harm them in any way, will be killed. And he gave them many presents, and they sent him. Then everybody saw the Ma'as Shem Agadol Vanero, that is Shomer Israel in all the places where they are, and he saves them. And all the days of this king, he wished to see the face of Ariz again. That's what the king wanted to. He says, anybody who will bring me Arizal so I can see him again, I will make him a rich man. But it did not happen. Ad Khan, the Spurey and the stories of tzaddikim, Rabbeinu Baal Shem Tov, Rabbeinu Arizal, Schus again Aleinu Val Kol Yisrael, B'ezrat Hashem. This schus, each and every one of us will have gewaldige week, wonderful with simcha and satisfaction in any way, shape, or form. The gashmis with ruchnis. Let's take a quick look and Sichos Haran for this week, and this is the story. We are holding by story 147. It says there is a famous story that Rabbeinu said about the prince that was made, was made of precious stones. And this is a very seminal story. It talks about, how a king had no children, and he wanted to have children, and he decreed upon the Jews to oblige themselves that he will have children. So they found a tzaddik nister, and he told him he'll have a girl. And so it happened. It was a gorgeous girl, beautiful girl. Everybody from all the lands came to see her. And then he wanted a boy. So they looked for the same tzaddik nister. They couldn't find him. So they looked for another one, and so forth. And this tzaddik said, I don't know anything. So the king said, listen, be reasonable. The Jews are in my hands to do whatever it is I want with them. I want a son. So that tzaddik, told him, take all the precious stones, the gems in the world, and crush them into dust and put it in wine. And you drink half, and the queen should drink half. And they gave. Um, this is what they did, and the queen gave birth to a baby boy who was just as beautiful as the girl. Everybody came to see him. Now the princess was very upset because until now she was the only show in town. Now there's the boy, but at least she was happy for one reason, one thing, that the tzaddik promised that the prince will consist of precious gems, and he wasn't. One day he hurt himself, and the princess ran to help him, and she saw in the place of the cut, there's a precious gem underneath the skin, and that then she became very jealous. She made herself sick, and she called. The doctors came; they couldn't find any reason for it. And then, Baal Kishuf, wizard came, Chashvan, and she asked him if it is possible to make a kishuf that somebody will become a leper. He told her, yeah. She says, but how can you prevent for another wizard or another warlock, whatever it is, come and take away the spell? So he told her, if you throw the kishuf in the water, it's irreversible. And whoever it is that casts the spell will cast it in the water. And so it was, and the prince became leprous, and again they called the Jews. And this tzaddik Nister was told Mishaman that it was a kishuv, it was a spell. And he came, he told the king. And when he came, told the king, the princess became very, very worried that they will find where the kishuf is in the water. So she ran, then she fell into the water in the place where the kishuf was, and that that dispelled the spell, and the prince became healthy, and the leper skin fell off him. Then everybody saw that he was made totally of precious stones. Basically, that's the story, and we learned the story at great length. What's a pshat, tzaddik b'chinas son, tzaddik b'chinas daughter, the jealousy between them, and so forth and so on. This Sicha 147, it says, Shamati me'ech me'ish echad, I heard from one person, Ma'anshe Shlomeinu, that said that before Rabbeinu HaKadosh said this Maisa of Ben Melech that had a son that was comprised completely of precious stones, he says before he said the Maisa, he says, I know a Maisa that contains the name of all the entire name of Membes, of 42 letters. This is, when we say after Kabbanas, Ana b'chach dolasi minchata tilsura, kabel renas chasag v'netan, and so this is Shem of Membes. Then he said this Maisa. Even though we still don't know if this is the Maisa of Shem Membes or not, I also heard from his holy mouth that a few years before he said about Shem also knew a Maisa that had in it the name of Shem and Beis. And he spoke to me then from Shem and Beis, and he asked me to find an equivalent in foreign language to two letters, Vav and Tzadik, that are in the name, and I couldn't find it. And the way I understood it, Rabbeinu already knew the entire secret except these two letters. He still cannot put them in this inyan. Only except these two, Vav and Tzadik. He still cannot put them in the inyan that he wants to put his name. He wants to put the Shem and Bes in this particular story. Now, we have no idea what this is about. This I don't have any idea. I don't even know what is the inyan of Shem and Bes. You need somebody who is knows about these inyanim. But the one thing that we need to know about Rabbeinu HaKadosh, it's a wonderful thing that I saw in a letter that Reb Nosson writes to his son. And he says, you should know, my beloved son, that our holy, exalted, tremendous, awesome Rebbe knew, it was already after Rabbeinu's passing, he knew everything that you will go through. And he has already prepared in advance all the remedies and medicines that you need, Gashmis and Ruchnius, in his Teres, in his Maisius, in his in whatever it is that he has illuminated into our mind. It is very important to understand, the entire Breslov is learning now until Rosh Chodesh Kislev, the Maisa, the Torah Samechei 65. It speaks about, the Baal Asoda, the owner of the field, that his job is to cultivate all the plants that grow there, which are Nishmas Yisrael. And within the Maisa, Rabbeinu says that in order to be able to do it properly, the idea is that you have to go to a level which is beyond time and place. You are not even cognizant of your own existence. And then when you come there, you realize that everything is one, everything is good. And when you come back, there are all kinds of Yisurim and all kinds of suffering that people go through. But ultimately, out of this comes Ischachus B'Torah that enables, the simcha of the Torah to work away the Yisurim of taking Ein Sof and turning it into a constricted vessel. The main kavanah here is, in other words, that those fruits that come out, the Torah that comes out of when you come back from this meeting with Ein Sof, meeting infinity, that is the fruit of all the plants, the neshamas that grow in that field. Meaning, what it means for us is as follows. Every once in a while, during davening, during Ma'aseh Mitzvah, or whatever it is, you can get to a point that you are so ecstatic and excited that you're not even cognizant of your own independent existence. By those occasions are few and far between. Most of the time, we're busy with mundane thoughts, mundane inyanim. But the point is that we carry with us an imprint, a memory, which is a very faded memory. It's almost like a wave that is coming to the shore, and makes it paints like a fan on the beach until the new waves come in. It leaves an imprint. And slowly, what happens to us is that our view of this world is changed. And it is changed to contain not just what decisions should I make in order for things to work out in this world, but what decisions, how do I see the world? How do I see what is happening to me? How do I see which direction I'm going? How do I see the difficulties I have? How do I see the good things that happen to me vis-a-vis the fact that everything aims towards a final goal, which is the infinite existence of each and every one of us. It's like you're not going to eat anything unkosher. because you already see unkosher food as something that it's almost, you don't even need to exercise any there's no dilemma even in it, because it's not, because your point of view has changed to the sense you realize that in order to live, commensurately with the goal of netzach, of infinity, eating non-kosher doesn't fit. It won't do. And if a person does, things they shouldn't, it doesn't fit. Certain things are already become second nature. Keeping Shabbos, eating kosher, whatever. There's you don't even have to fight it anymore. That means that you are able to bring into your everyday the imprint from the Ein Sof. There's no Baal Tshuva that has come into Yiddishkeit that wasn't Zocher to have a glimpse of that which is beyond time and place. You have no words for it. You have no way of explaining it, but you know that you have seen it. The idea is that it's something that repeats himself again and again and again. This the Sichos Haran. This is the Likutim Haran. Rabbeinu says that every single Sicha that he says, every single Dibur that he puts in the world helps for this life, for Olam Habo, for Tchias Mason, for the Great Judgment Day. We just read the Sicha Likutim Haran, which I personally don't know, how to learn and how to explain it. But I read it, and I know that this Dibur is a part of the medications and the remedies the Rabbeinu has already prepared for each and every one of us. And he knows you, and he knows me, and he knows that we are together now. He knew in advance that we're going to be together now. And then we read this particular Sicha, and this particular Sicha is going to serve us in Olam Hazeh, in Olam Habo. So, B'ezrat Hashem, Kodesh Baruch Hu should help us. We'll see B'ezrat Hashem, the Geula Shleimo, B'kov B'yaminu, B'ezrat Hashem. And Ad Kana Kofi Aleph, B'ezrat Hashem.